joining me today in the Capital TV show, Abbas Dahouk. He's former senior military advisor at the State Department. Mr. Dahouk, good evening.
Good evening, and thank you for having me on, Maria.
I want to talk about the inauguration of the Israeli embassy in UAE. Israel's new foreign minister said, or he offered an olive branch and said, "We're here to stay." What does it mean, this sentence, and the opening of the embassy itself, and the bilateral relationship between Israel and UAE? Can you comment?
Well, I think both countries are realizing, UAE and Israel, realizing that this normalization process is overdue, especially on people to people, and especially on the economic side, perhaps in the future on the defense side. Both countries, they see that it lines up with their national interest. Yeah, I see what he's doing with Israel, but both countries are doing that for their own interest. And the stars are lined up for both of them. We just hope they can continue this normalization and expand on it to beyond economy and defense, and to get to people-to-people engagements.
On the other side, I'm going to talk about the demand of UAE to Italy to pull its aircraft and personnel out of the military base in the Gulf country by July 2nd. UAE decision comes after Italy suspended major arms deal to the Gulf nation. So what's happening there? Do you know anything about this particular situation?
I don't have details on this specific defense deal, but all defense it's based not only on military requirement and on threat analysis. It's mainly political too. So this decision, perhaps you can look at it not just from a mainly military to military engagement, but it's based on a political decision by the Italian government to do so. It could be the political decision also based on internal dynamics. It doesn't have to be a political decision based on what's going on in the Middle East or based on what the UAE is doing. Just most likely it will be a political decision based on internal dynamics of the in Italy between current government and maybe ongoing government.
But Italy have fears to use this arms in the war in Yemen, and they put responsibility on Saudi Arabia and Iran. How do you comment?
That's true. There is a divergence of interest between Italy and UAE. Both has they back the different groups. I think Italy backs the government, and UAE was very close to Haftar. So there is a contradiction or uncommon interest between Italy and UAE in Libya. And yes, Libya, if UAE has used their own capabilities, some of their military forces, like aircraft in Libya, and perhaps yes, Italy would not want any Italian equipment that's sold to UAE used against their interest inside Libya. So I can see there is a conflict of interest in Libya between UAE and Italy.
Remembering the 19 U.S. service members killed 25 years ago in the Khobar, we are remembering it today, Khobar Towers in Saudi Arabia by Iranian-backed Saudi Hezbollah, Al-Hijaz, the terrorist group. Abbas, you were a military attaché at this time, I think, or later or before, I don't know, but tell us more details about how these terrorist groups act in Saudi Arabia, and what is the defense strategy to stop them?
Well, that's I mean, the terrorism has evolved from that mid 1990s all the way now to 2021. But overall, this Saudi government has done a great job in countering terrorism. At that time, there was the Khobar Tower incident. There was evidence that was backed by Iranian operative or intelligence. And then fast forward, Saudis have issue with Al-Qaeda, even though they're Saudi citizens, but they were members of Al-Qaeda. And back in 2004, 5, and 6, and that was a hard fight for them. But the Saudi government did a good job in isolating all this terrorism. And I think the brilliant thing that they did there on the public relations front, they did not call them terrorists. They call them the al-fi'a al-dhalla. They call them the deviant youth. And I think by doing that, they're basically did not kind of stereotype, the terrorist and his family and his tribe as terror, have some terrorist associated entity. Unlike, let's see, for example, what President Bush said, you are with us or with a terrorist. So it's like this or that. So Saudis could not adopt this kind of us with a terrorist, because the terrorists at that time, they're all Saudi nationals. So they did a pretty good job in doing that to counter that. And then fast forward, they did counter ISIS. They were the first to actually join the campaign over Syria. And also they had a great program with the United States on counterterrorism worldwide. I mean, U.S. Saudi Arabia was always considered one of the top ally to the United States when it comes to counterterrorism.
That's great. Joe Biden can make whatever terrible deal he wants, but won't submit it to Senate for ratification because it won't pass. Say Senator Ted Cruz. What is your approach?
I mean, the president has the authority to have it's not as an agreement. It will be an agreement. It's not a law, and it's not a binding agreement. That's one of the reasons why when Trump came into to office, he just basically decided to leave the agreement and just let go of it. So it's not a binding. It's an agreement. It's a political agreement. And Biden wants to do what President Obama did not do is consult Congress before they actually agree on anything. He promised to do this, and he also perhaps he will do that. But there's still ongoing. The dialogue is ongoing. The same thing also. He wants to go back and rediscuss this deal with European friends and allies, and he's doing that. So he's doing it the right way on the diplomatic side, and he will also inform Congress. It'll be hard to convince all members of Congress. He's not going to have a bipartisan support on it, not just because of the deal itself, or because Iran is you can't trust Iran as a nation, as a neighbor, and we know Iran still listed as a terrorist supporting nation. But the other thing too is domestic issues within the administration between Democrats and Republicans. Something like that they're not going to agree on. But moving forward, is very committed to reviving the nuclear deal. They seem that this is the only way forward.
All right. On the other side, the U.S. Justice Department blocked a number of Iran-affiliated websites, many of them linked to disinformation efforts by Tehran and its proxies. What does it mean?
Well, this means the U.S. administration continue to watch Iran, continue to watch any violation of the any violations that comes with money laundering, or comes supporting terrorism, or also try to enhance their nuclear capability. And in this case, any support to Hezbollah, any support to some of the rogue elements or the proxies in Iraq, Syria, or in Yemen, the U.S. is watching them, and then they pick and choose political element to this, is to continue the pressure on the Iranian regime that the rogue behavior will not be tolerated.
A simple question: why Iranian missiles are targeting Mecca?
Well, I think first we have to. Iran seems that this is a priority target for them. Why? I mean, I find myself. I'm sure why. How can they justify something like this? To to shell or try to send the rockets to places of worship. And also, technically, Iran and Saudi Arabia are not at war. There's a proxy war there going on, but Iran, again, it's not the first time they will interfere in Saudi's internal affairs. They've done it many times. You mentioned the Khobar Towers, and also some terrorism, and most recently the Houthi things. The Houthis, while they claim they have grievances inside Yemen, and they are trying to battle that with the government and others, but at the same time they're just launching rockets and UAVs against Saudi Arabia. So that's something I think the United Nations, or not necessarily United Nations, international communities, perhaps the Western countries, go into this more idea of non-state actors be able to possess UAVs like this and missiles and launch them across international lines, international borders. That should not be tolerated, because in the future those rogue elements might direct their rockets or UAVs against them.
About Lebanon, breaking news: medics warn of an impending catastrophe as a fuel crisis stretches Lebanon hospitals to the limit. How can Lebanon defeat its crisis?
Well, that's a $1 million question. I mean, Lebanon, it's sad I was born and raised in Lebanon, so I also have a different feeling towards that. I do feel for the Lebanese people. I still have some family who live there. Lebanon has many issues. The main issue is on the inside. Yes, they have regional issues. You have Syria and Syria on the side, but most importantly, Lebanon went through a civil war, and I grew up through the civil war in Lebanon. 15 years of civil war, and that did not get them anywhere. I mean, while the war ended in 1990, the political war continued till today, and they haven't found a way. They, meaning the Lebanese people, to work together and find a way to run their country outside this corruption and nepotism. So do I see future in Lebanon? The future of Lebanon depends on the people of Lebanon. And this is the first time in history when Lebanon lost all their friends. They have no neighbor friends. They have no Western friends, not even the international organizations, so UN or IMF or the World Bank. They're all looking at them to figure it out from within. And if that does not happen, I think Lebanon is a continual spiral down to worse and worse situations as we move forward.
Do you fear the possibility of the deterioration of the security situation through assassinations in light of the crisis in Lebanon?
You're talking about more assassination? I mean, we have the recent assassination of Luqman Slim. That's a terrible event. Luqman Slim, I'm sure he was a big threat to the Shiite community. I mean, to the Hezbollah, and he had probably the background to do something good for the whole of Lebanon. But political assassination, as you know, Maria, it's part of Lebanese politics. I mean, it's all about assassination all through history. I mean, we've seen that. It's pretty sad. I mean, you think Russia does some assassination of political opponents, but Lebanon is way ahead of Russia on executing political opponents.
Thank you so much, Abbas Dahouk, for this interview. You are most welcome again. Thank you.
Thank you for having me, Maria. I enjoyed it.
Thank you.